Good morning, friends. Welcome to Ecoholics YouTube channel. My name is Avinash Agarwal, and in this video, I'll be discussing with you important current affairs for 11th June 2024. First article will talk about artificial general intelligence. Second article will speak about what's happening so far as India's growth story is concerned in urban areas and in rural areas separately. And the third article will speak about how we can reduce our import dependence for pulses and oilseeds. So let us start with the first article. So this article is basically an essay length article, friends. It's a very good article, very beautiful article. It will give you a lot of data points. Artificial intelligence, artificial general intelligence. These topics are here to say what is the impact that they will have on, let's say, India's developmental discourse, India's growth story. That is something that we need to be able to talk about. That is something that we need to be able to think about. So this article will help us in that direction. So let us start talking about artificial general intelligence. So there is this very nice quote by Vladimir Putin, which says that whoever becomes the leader in this sphere will become the ruler of the world. This is the importance of artificial intelligence. It's a very apt quote. I want you to note it down. So the basic idea is that you have to realize that artificial intelligence is going to be a pivotal force in reshaping global geopolitical landscape. Now, parallels can be drawn, let us say, with the naval technology. So the British Empire was created on the strength of naval technology. Since they had global dominance or global superiority in this particular technology, and this technology was pivotal, therefore, the British Empire became the preeminent force that it became. So, technological superiority historically has been the cornerstone of global dominance. I don't want to give very negative examples, but nuclear technology, superiority in nuclear technology, it gave US the kind of edge that it did in Second World War. And subsequently, there was a Cold War between USA and USSR. And the basic idea was to have superiority in these technologies. That was the basic idea. Now, as you can see that this race for technological superiority can lead to positive and negative outcomes. So your industrial revolution may be a positive outcome. Your progress in supercomputing can be a positive outcome. But similarly, there can be negative outcome in the sense that there can be a Cold War like scenario or nuclear holocaust kind of scenarios also. So this article is going to firmly talk about how we can enhance the positives and regulate the negatives. That is what we need to speak about. So AI, it is going to play a critical role in almost every element of our national strategy. In March 2024, and I wanted to note this down, in March 2024, India AI mission was approved with a funding of 10,000 crore across 5 years. This funding needs to go up. Parallels can be drawn with, let us say, countries such as US, maybe UK, Germany, China, and those countries are spending significantly more amounts of money on artificial intelligence. So we have made a start, but we need to do a lot more. Now this particular mission, it will support AI supercomputing infrastructure, which is a good thing. But apart from supporting the AI supercomputing infrastructure, we need to do a lot more things. What those lot more things are, I will describe in this article going ahead. Now the next step in this artificial intelligence series is going to be artificial general intelligence. What do I mean by artificial general intelligence? So this is the definition of artificial general intelligence. AGI, it can match or surpass human cognitive abilities, human thinking abilities, human reasoning abilities, learning abilities, perception abilities, problem solving abilities. So in every aspect, it can outperform human beings. That is artificial general intelligence. You have to realize that artificial intelligence is better than human beings, is faster than human beings at mundane tasks, at repetitive tasks. So let me give you an example. Suppose that there is a human being who is looking at a sample and is approving or rejecting the sample based on certain parameters. It's a very narrow task. It's a very yes and no kind of a task. The answer is either 0 or 1, either reject or accept. Now this can be programmed. artificial intelligence can be made to do this task and human being can be replaced from this task. Again, this is a very narrow task. It doesn't involve solving any other problem except for probably just saying yes or no upon a sample. When we take the next step and move towards AGI, artificial general intelligence, so that is that kind of general intelligence which can solve problems that it was never programmed to solve. Just the way human beings, they can think, they can apply themselves, and therefore they can make sense out of newer scenarios also without having any prior training or prior experience in those newer scenarios. Similarly, AGI will be able to do that kind of performance or that kind of decision making, that when faced with newer facts, newer data sets, newer environments for which it has not been specifically trained, still it will be able to hold itself together and come out with some kind of, let's say, logical reasoning based decision making. The day AGI gets developed, it will have a transformational impact upon the way we work, upon the way we live, upon the way we govern ourselves, is what the article will say. So like I said, that AI is designed to do specific tasks. AGI can generalize its abilities to solve any problem. AGI can perform any intellectual tasks that human beings can perform. There are some examples from the domain of healthcare and urbanization. You will read these examples on your own time and incorporate these kinds of examples in your essays, in your answers. Now the point is that AGI can be a very, very strong force. Therefore, there need to be stringent safeguards against potential misuse of this technology. What can be a misuse? Surveillance, weaponry, these can be misuse. Now, the probability or the possibility that we will be able to develop AGI in the next 5 years is low. It may be as low as 10%, but 10% isn't low enough. And therefore, we need to prepare for certain regulations, for certain measures that we will take so that we can keep this AGI under control. Like I said, that it will radically transform the job market. Now, why is it that governments across the world or policymakers across the world are not doing enough to put regulations on AGI, its development, its deployment? Why is it that we are dithering, or why is it that we are dragging kicking the can down the road, so to speak? And the answer lies in this concept of availability heuristic. What do I mean by availability heuristic? Phenomena which have never been seen or haven't occurred, we have a tendency to believe that it will not be an immediate threat. It will not happen anytime soon. So we are discounting the likelihood and potential impact of events that are not readily recalled as immediate threats. Since it has never happened, so we cannot recall it as an immediate threat. Why is it that everybody is so spiked up to talk about safety of nuclear missiles, etc., etc.? Because a nuclear weapon has been detonated and we can recall that tragedy. Since we can recall that tragedy, so we consider that to be something which can be an immediate threat going ahead. So that is the idea of availability heuristic that we need to get over. What should India do? Now, we are not just going to speak from a regulations or a protections point of view, but we are going to talk about the larger ecosystem. What should we do so that we can harness AI, AGI for our own benefit? A, we can start with a dedicated department, creating a central authority that will coordinate all activities. B, we can set standards and guidelines for development and deployment. C, what we can do is that we can make data sets available for public and private sector both, because without data sets, AI models or AGI models cannot be trained. So these data sets need to be available. D, what we can do is that we can foster a thriving AI system. We can create an ecosystem for deployment of AI in defense, drones, cybersecurity, and other strategic areas. E, what we can do is that we can support startups. Some examples can be cited. These are very good examples, very beautiful examples that I want you to note down. So US government, they supported Palantir through InQtel. Israel supported Elbit Systems via its Ministry of Defense. Government of India also needs to co-invest in deep tech startups which can develop capabilities which can have an impact upon national security, national strategy, and important critical areas. We also need a comprehensive AI skilling initiative. We should set ourselves a goal to train 50 million people in AI usage, such as data literacy, AI ethics, and so on. We need to train 1 million individuals in AI development. We need to create partnerships with universities and technical institutes and develop an AI focused curricula, ensure that we have specialized degree programs and continuing education modules so that our workforce can upskill and reskill themselves so far as AI is concerned. We should have sufficient apprenticeship and real world project engagement so that we don't get stuck in the realm of theory only. These are some of the suggestions that you need to make, and your conclusion has to be optimistic. You can say that I'm optimistic about the transformative power of AI to benefit humanity. However, we need to do a lot more to regulate its development and deployment. So this is the first article regarding artificial intelligence and artificial general intelligence. This one article gives you the capability to write an essay length answer upon artificial intelligence. If you can just add a few more use cases, a few more examples, if you can just talk about a couple of Indian startups which are working in this particular space and are prominently known and understood what they are doing, then like I said, if you can throw a couple of more data points regarding how artificial intelligence is going to impact, let us say, the Indian economy and the global economy. Couple of data points, maybe related to growth, maybe related to GDP, maybe related to employment, maybe related to productivity, then your essay length answer is ready for artificial intelligence and artificial general intelligence. So I hope that this was helpful, and I hope that if you're liking it, then you will like our content and share our content. Okay, moving ahead to the next article. If there is any doubt, please ask. Otherwise, I'll move ahead. Now, there are certain smudges in India's rosy growth story, meaning that let us not be fooled by 8.2% GDP growth rate figure for 23-24. Let us not go by the headline number only. Let us try to dig deep and see at a disaggregated level that which set of consumers or which set of Indians are actually creating the demand and which set of Indians are not in a position to create very strong demand. That is what this article is going to talk about. So we have witnessed 3 years of strong growth. We have witnessed 3 years of fiscal consolidation. Headline growth rates are optimistic and super exuberant, but the ground reality is sobering. If you look at consumption demand, which accounts for 56% of India's GDP, right? If you look at the consumption demand at a disaggregated level, you will see that there are very important problems that we need to address. So private final consumption expenditure, PFCE. This private final consumption expenditure is basically expenditure by households. All the households in India, right? They have people living within them. So there are certain consumption requirements. We buy our essentials and non-essentials on a day-to-day basis, week-to-week basis, monthly basis. And all of this, when added together, gives you a sense of private final consumption expenditure. Like I have been repeating almost on a daily basis, that private final consumption expenditure or household expenditure or consumption expenditure, it accounts for nearly 60% of the aggregate demand in India. This article is saying it accounts for 57%. I keep saying that it accounts for approximately 60% of India's aggregate demand. So you need to keep this data point in your mind. Now this private final consumption expenditure can be divided into two buckets: rural expenditure and urban expenditure. So your rural consumption has been hit by price rise, that is inflation. Your rural consumption has been hit by low wage growth. If I earn better amount of better income, more income, then I will spend a greater amount of that income, and I will be able to meet not only my needs but also that of my families, not only essentials but also non-essentials. So my consumption expenditure or my consumption demand, it hinges very critically upon wage growth. And you know that we have been witnessing low wage growth, low real wage growth in rural India in the last 5 to 7 years. So rural consumption has been hit by A, low wage growth, and B, by price rise. A, I don't have a lot of money to spend, and B, prices for essential items have increased, so I don't have much left after spending on essential items. So therefore I will reduce my demand in other spheres. That is what is happening to rural consumption. Whereas urban consumers, they have kept spendings up, and that's a good thing. Now Reserve Bank of India comes up with the index. I want you to note down the name of this index, that is Consumer Confidence Index. The unfortunate part about this index is that it is based upon an urban survey, right? So when you look at the Consumer Confidence Index, which is primarily an urban survey, so whatever projections that you get out of this index is not reflecting the complete story of India. It is reflecting the story only of urban India. Now this survey, still it is giving us a sense of what is happening. This survey, it separates spending into essential and non-essential spending. Now if you look at LIG, that is the low income group. So LIG, they were pessimistic about future discretionary spending. Why would you be pessimistic about future discretionary spending? Maybe because you don't see good income prospects. Maybe because you don't see that, you will have that extra amount of buffer money which you can use for this kind of discretionary spending. Hence you are pessimistic about the same. On the other hand, your highest earners, those who are at the top of the pyramid kind of section of society, upper middle class and upper class, the highest earners, they remain buoyantly optimistic. Whereas your MIG, that is your middle income group, their optimism, it took longer to surface. Meaning that yes, they are optimistic, but not so much, right? Now if you look at the poorer section of our population, which is the bulk of our population, so pessimism is more acute or more severe in metro cities, right? So on an average, 24% of metro city respondents who are earning less than 10,000 a month, they expected to increase their spending. So only 1 out of 4 earning less than 10,000 and living in a metro city is expected to increase their spending. Whereas 44% in non-metro respondents, so 44% of those who are staying in non-metro cities and earning less than 10,000 rupees a month, they were expected to increase their spending going ahead. So that means that the confidence levels are higher in non-metro cities than in metro cities. That is what this particular number, or that is what this particular finding is telling you. Now, why is it that somebody staying in a non-metro city is likely to increase their spending, right? Why is that the case? Why is it that 44% or more number of people are responding the way they are responding as compared to only 24% in metro cities? There are a couple of reasons that you can understand. So if I bucket the reasons, one reason is from the expenditure side and another reason is from the income side. So from the expenditure side, your metro cities, the life in metro cities is expensive. You don't have a lot of family support. So you have to take care of all your expenditure, etc., etc. Okay. Whereas if you see infrastructure development, digitization, e-commerce, for gig economy, etc., so a lot of jobs and income potentials are actually getting created in non-metro cities. There is a lot of expenditure thrust or renewal thrust in non-metro cities, which is creating opportunities in those areas. So what we need to do is that we need to create a similar thrust in metro areas. We need to revitalize our metros, transform them into clean, green and safe cities. When I speak about metros, I want you to be able to have this kind of data point in your mind, that Mumbai, Delhi and Bangalore, they are among the world's top 50 startup ecosystems. Chennai, Pune, Telangana or Hyderabad rather aren't too far behind, right? They aren't too far behind. These are our most important metro ecosystems, right? So I have explained to you what is happening A in urban areas, B in rural areas. Within urban areas, I have explained to you what is happening in metro cities and non-metro cities, right? Now let us look at this particular aspect of entrepreneurship. Okay. Now there is this data that comes which tells us that 1 in 5 working age adult intends to start a business in next 3 years. Now, which kind of a business are we talking about? And have we become particularly entrepreneurial? Have we become particularly risk taking? Why is it that we have become particularly entrepreneurial, right? Before I answer that question, let me throw some important data points at you. So when we talk about entrepreneurship in India, we are essentially talking about establishing MSMEs, that is micro, small and medium enterprises, These are very important set of enterprises because they contribute 29% to India's GDP and 45% to India's total exports. But the unfortunate part is that out of this entire universe of MSMEs, 99% of your enterprises are micro enterprises, meaning that the person who is running this enterprise is probably self-employed, has at max maybe, I don't know what, 1 or 2 workers working with him or her, and that's about it. So it's a small shop or a small factory at best. They create jobs at a local level, spur innovation, boost production, etc. But why is it that these guys become entrepreneurs? Are they looking at entrepreneurship so that they can become multi-millionaires or something? It is more out of necessity than out of opportunity or aspiration. You don't have a good job. Maybe you're not educated enough, or you're not well educated enough, or you're not appropriately educated. Maybe you don't have access to job, or maybe in your areas those jobs are not available, or whatever may be the reason. A lot of people go into entrepreneurship because of scarcity of jobs. And in India particularly, it has been seen that entrepreneurial activity gets a boost when periods of unemployment are witnessed. So entrepreneurship that we are talking about is synced with the unemployment scenarios that we keep witnessing. Okay. Another point that you need to understand regarding our growth story is that a lot of spending that is happening, it is debt fueled spending. So a lot of Indians have gotten used to taking a lot of debt, which is now very easily accessible because of technology, platforms, tech, fintech, and these kinds of developments that have happened in the last 5 to 7 years. So we are taking a lot of loans, 21. So there is this survey that was done by Paisa Bazaar. It's an important platform supported by Policy Bazaar, if I'm not wrong. So 21% of personal loans taken on its platform during this period were for travel expenses, 31% for home renovation. So you can see that the bulk of expenditure that people are doing, they are doing not on the so-called productive activities, not on the so-called investment activities that can generate an income in the future, that can create some assets for the future, etc. It is for leisure, or it is for pleasure, or it is for satisfying an immediate need. So demography, digitization, development, they are all changing our patterns. 70% of the borrowing was done by this particular age group, and this borrowing has been fueled, like I said, by easy credit and app-based loans, platform-based loans, etc. Now we need to be very mindful about this. Why are we talking about this? Because if you see that Indians are indebted, or they are taking more and more loans, eventually they will have to service those loans. And how will you service those loans? You will eventually have to cut back your consumption demand and service those loans. So loan taking has to be very, very disciplined. It has to be aligned with good financial behaviors, etc., etc. So I cannot give a moral science lecture sitting over here, but we need to be very careful and mindful of the direction that we are taking. Moving ahead to the third article, I want to very quickly talk about the pulses scenario in India. Let's say that you are asked us, maybe a 5-marker question or something like that on how do you reduce import dependence so far as pulses is concerned. So what are the kind of data points that you will mention? What are the kind of schemes and programs that you will talk about? I just want to quickly talk about that and leave it with you. So far as pulses is concerned, okay, this is how the pattern has been, right? We are talking about amount of foreign exchange spent in billions of dollars on import of, let us say, pulses and vegetable oils. Right now, you know that there is a predominant trend of vegetarianism in India, right? And there is also a predominant trend of home cooked food in India, right? Particularly deep fried kind of stuff and so on. So pulse is an important source of protein for a vegetarian diet. We are not growing sufficient quantities of pulses in India itself, as a result of which we are importing a lot of it from a lot of other countries, and as a result of which we are spending a lot of foreign exchange. Same goes for vegetable oils, that we require a lot of vegetable oils for our cooking purposes, the way we cook, but we are not growing sufficient quantity of vegetable oil seeds, and therefore we are import dependent upon countries such as, let us say, Indonesia and Malaysia. So you don't need to note down all the figures, but you need to have this ballpark in your mind that we have spent close to $4 billion, let us say, in 23-24 on import of pulses, and approximately $15 billion on import of edible oils and vegetable oils in 23-24. So if you look at India's overall import bill of $850 billion, right? So more than 2% of it has been spent. More than 2% of it has been spent on this category of vegetable oils and pulses. This is how we are supposed to analyze. So how, if India wants to reduce its import bill, if India wants to reduce its trade deficit and therefore current account deficit, then we need to act upon these areas. What can be done? So the government is now paying special attention to this particular area. They are going to come up with policy measures so that we can attain self-sufficiency in pulses by 2027 and we can reduce our import bills, right? I have already told you these numbers, right? As you can see that India's import bill for FY24 was approximately $850 billion and roughly 2% of it is getting spent on these particular categories. So we need to do something about it, right? So we are developing right now, we are still in the mode of development, but we are developing a new program focusing on development of pulses, of growing pulses, etc. Right? We are still a net importer of edible oils. Like I have mentioned, we are spending this much amount of money buying oil from these countries, right? So in 2011, we started the National Mission for Edible Oils, Oil Palm, right? In 2021, we started this mission in 2021 so that we can boost crude palm oil production to 1.1 million ton by 25-26. So please cite this program. Whenever you are talking about reducing imports of these items, please cite this program. Similarly, we launched the National Food Security Mission Pulses, okay, to again boost domestic production of pulses and reduce import dependence. Please cite this program. We have made substantial progress. We were producing 19 million tons of pulses in 2013-2014 and we have increased it to 26 million tons in 22-23. We need to do a lot more. And we can do a lot more because we have fertile land. Growing pulses is not rocket science. We just need to provide probably the right minimum support price, the right support to farmers, the right assurances to farmers, the right seeds to farmers at the right price to farmers so that they are incentivized enough to grow pulses. Right now we are importing pulses from Australia, Canada, Russia, Myanmar, Mozambique, Tanzania, Sudan, Malawi. 28 million tons of tuar, urad, masoor, etc. gets imported into India, which can a lot of it can easily be grown in India, is what you have to say. So whenever this new program comes up or this new policy kicks in, we will get an opportunity to speak again about it, in depth about it. But I've already given you a sense of the direction that we are going to take and the data point that you need to keep in your mind. I hope that this discussion was enriching and helpful for you guys. Thank you so much for joining in, Prince, as well as everybody else who had joined in. We will meet again tomorrow and take our discussion ahead. Thank you so much. All the very best and Jai Hind to all of you guys. Bye bye.